We are in a unique situation in the United States this election season. Never before has the country faced a more grave threat than it does right now from Donald Trump. And it's not just me, it's not just people in independent media, it's not just progressive commentators who are saying it, it is Republicans. I just got back, well, to say I just got back is a little bit extra. I was at the Democratic National Convention last week in Chicago, at which several Republicans were giving prime time choice speaking spots. Jeff Duncan, the former lieutenant governor of Georgia, current Republican, was there. Olivia Troy used to work in the Trump administration. She was there. Several different videos were played of people who voted for Donald Trump 2 or 3 times. And they're now working against the candidacy of Donald Trump and for Kamala Harris. I'm going to play a clip that is very poignant, that really says that we may be on the precipice of a great thing happening, a truly unifying moment of the two parties, or what's left of the Republican Party that thinks rationally. Is Chris Coons, senator from Delaware. And he is on Morning Joe yesterday explaining how important this is, that it should make people take note. It should wake people up that Donald Trump's Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, Vice President all say Donald Trump is too dangerous to be anywhere near the White House. And then we're going to talk about this letter. It's 19 pages. The first page is a letter. The remaining 18 pages is a list of former Republican officials, many of them still Republicans, who are signed on to this letter, the last sentence of which is, those leaders that we need today are Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz. There is a clamoring among what's left of the Republican Party to jettison Donald Trump and move on into modernity. Watch this from Senator Chris Coons on Morning Joe.
My advice to the American people is take seriously the fact that Donald Trump's former Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, Chief of Staff, and Vice President have all in different settings said that he belongs nowhere near the White House again. And I understand and respect why our allies around the world are gravely concerned about what a return of Donald Trump to the White House would mean. If nothing else, it would certainly mean chaos and unpredictability. He continues to undermine our alliances and our partnerships. His principal focus in talking about NATO, which is a vital and important alliance that contributes to American security and prosperity, is to criticize the contributions of our NATO allies as if somehow NATO is a protection racket rather than a security alliance. And to give really no respect for the enormous progress that's been made in increasing the partnership and the contributions of NATO allies under the Biden-Harris administration's leadership.
And look, that message may not be for you. You may already be voting for Kamala Harris. You may not be this undecided independent voter. You may have already made up your mind. But there is certainly a modicum, there is a percentage of people out there who that sentence should be lodged in their brain. My advice to the American people is to take seriously the fact that Donald Trump's former Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor, Chief of Staff, and Vice President have all in different settings said that he belongs nowhere near the White House again. And then when you add 200 Republicans with this letter, it makes it even more. Here's a press release from the Harris-Walz campaign. More than 200 Bush, McCain, and Romney alumni endorse Vice President Harris for president. More than 200 Republicans who previously worked for either former President George W. Bush, the late Senator John McCain, or Senator Mitt Romney endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris for president in an open letter Monday obtained exclusively by USA Today. We reunite today, joined by new George H.W. Bush alumni to reinforce our 2020 statements and, for the first time, jointly declare that we are voting for Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz this November, the letter reads. The Harris campaign has worked to highlight its backing from Republicans who oppose Trump, launching a Republican for Harris group this month and featuring Republican speakers at last week's convention. Over the weekend, a dozen prominent Republican attorneys who worked for former President Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and George W. Bush endorsed Harris for president. The group included conservative former federal appellate judge Michael Luttig, who plans to vote for a Democratic president for the first time. Now, again, this is not something that should be just, oh, this is partisan politics. The party system in the United States is so entrenched over the course of 150 years, 180 years or so, that this is not something to look. Every once in a while in an election, you hear about one or two people who are jumping ship and voting for the other side. That's normal, but not hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of prominent people from the opposite party. Not the former vice president of the actual candidate who's on the ballot. Not the chief of staff. Not the national security director. Not the secretary of defense. Not people who know our deepest, darkest secrets, our abilities militarily, our vulnerabilities militarily. Not those people. They know Donald Trump better than anybody. They know what he was as a leader. They know what he was as a president. And they are warning, they're sounding the alarm. This guy needs to be nowhere near the White House, nowhere near the power that is vested in the presidency. The people who know him best, who worked most closely with him, say, run the f*** away. We do not need this. This is dangerous. This isn't partisan politics. This is an attempt, an earnest attempt to save the republic, to save our democracy. The criminal, felonious Donald Trump needs to be nowhere near a presidency that is now imbued with power. Like never before after the Supreme Court said that a sitting president can do whatever the f*** he wants and be free from consequence legally. Anything, up to and including dispatch the military to assassinate an American citizen who is an opponent that he feels is corrupt, which would be any Democrat, which would be anyone who doesn't bend the knee and worship at the throne of the cult leader, dear leader. That's it. And these people recognize that. These people who fundamentally disagree on several policy planks of Democrats, they're setting that aside because they know. Jeff Duncan said as much in his speech at the DNC. That, look, I'm a Republican. I disagree fundamentally on policy. But this moment is too important. Don't miss the moment. Do not, like the media right now, is missing the moment. They are painting Donald Trump as a casual, normal candidate, balancing, putting him on par with a Kamala Harris. Missing the moment. Don't miss the moment. What do you think? You can leave a comment below. You can also call, leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. Please consider supporting the work. Click the join button below. $2 a month. You can help me produce these videos and reach the millions or tens of millions of people that I do every month. I believe it's important. You can also go to my Patreon page, patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. Follow me on social media if you're still interested. I am everywhere at Dollemore. I'd love to see you there. Don't miss the moment. Be genuine. Take care of one another.